please. Hi, nice to see you all. Nice to see everyone. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are. Hi, everyone. I'm Lubna Dajani, and I will be your moderator today for this inclusion imperative discussion on equity and technology. I will love to tell you some more about myself, but I'm going to pass it to Shirelle to introduce herself, and then I'll pick it up at the end.
Good day, all. Shirelle Francis here, owner and founder of the iLeap Group. I am from New Jersey, now located in South Florida, the sunny South Florida, and I am here out of my love and passion to make sure that infrastructure and broadband is accessible to all, especially those who are in underserved communities throughout the USA and the global at large. 1 out of every 4 youth are impacted by a rural serving area and do not have access. And I want to make sure we demolish the digital divide. Thank you for having me. And to all the ladies here, thank you for being here.
Emily, please.
Hello, my name is Emily Wright. I am the creator of It'll Be Alright. My interest is founded mostly in the psychology of discrimination and looking at how technology amplifies discrimination and looking at how by monitoring patterns in our algorithms and patterns in our technology, we can learn more about the human condition and learn more about human psychology and how we can address issues such as discrimination using our technology.
Cristina?
Hello, everyone. How are you today? My name is Cristina, founder of Edify, where we use the power of the metaverse to provide leading edge career training and internships while expanding access to education and pathways to leadership. We do this mostly in historically underserved communities, creating new opportunities for students wherever they live and learn.
Thank you. Major Namrata?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of you. This is Namrata from India. It's 10 p.m. here, and excited to meet you all and contribute in whatever way I can. So I am an economist. I do global research, and I'm associated with BRICS Research Conference, and I do research on governance policies, how to boost economy of emerging economies. And I'm a leadership trainer and speaker as well. I journal for one of our leading media house, which is Hans India. And technology as is emerging really needs to be more innovative to be more inclusive for marginalized people, so that they can again be part of it and they can again contribute and fill that economic gap across the globe.
Edel?
Hello, my name is Edel Joyce. I am the product lead for a product that's called WebEx Hologram. My background is engineering. I am based in Ireland, on the west coast of Ireland, in Galway. And I'm working on a product that enables the feeling of co-presence by delivering a photorealistic quality real-time holograms. We're allowing people who are remote to actually appear present for a collaborative experience. And I'm very happy to be part of this panel today, and I'm really excited about the conversation that we're going to have.
And Alison.
Hello, welcome everybody. And it is so lovely to be here with so many different people from so many different countries. Really privileged to be here with you all. I am Alison Alexander, the co-founder and COO of MetaCampus. MetaCampus is a Web3 startup that we founded on the belief that the Web3 tools will enable us to unlock human potential and to equalize the economics of the world and really enable everyone to thrive. So we're passionate about using these new tools to really address the inequitable position that we find ourselves in as a society and to turn that around. And I'm really, really excited to be here to talk to everyone.
Thank you, Alison. So I'm Lubna Dajani. I'm the founder of Alternate, and my background's in systems, and my passion is unleashing innovation in implementation, taking it out of the lab. And this morning's conversations were very, very powerful. It was, I hope you didn't miss them. We talked about a lot of things, access, inclusion, and many points in the conversation. I was starting to reflect on the diversity in not just the disparity in access or discrimination, but in fact, it all existed in between the have and have-nots across the planet. It isn't necessarily the global north or the global south. It's actually everywhere. It's the have and the have-nots. We just, the issues seem to manifest slightly differently. Yesterday, in a conversation with a lady who I wish was with us here today, was talked about women's reproductive health, and to start it like this, but it's a real topic, and we're all here women. And in some countries here, we're worried about, and it's true, why are we paying taxes on tampons, for example, or that type of a product? But there are in other countries or in other areas where women can't even access, and the things that they go through, or the things that they miss out, like education, like even their life in pursuit of a pad. So not it's amazing that we're here talking about the metaverse, and to see the degree of advancements that we have, and the immensity of the access that we can create and provide. But it's true, I still can't maintain a phone call while I'm on the train to New York City, for example. But so it's definitely not an issue of technology. Shirelle, I don't want to hit you up, but you know me, I'm in love with your glasses, and it's the first thing that always grabs me. But it's seriously, it's also at the heart of what you talk about. Where do we even begin in when we want to talk about diversity or inclusion or the disparity or equity? Where do we even begin? And if you say ethics, tell me whose ethics we're anchoring our from.
The E word, the R word, we're using all these letters, right? So we talk global. You know, I begin with the C word, citizenship, right? And what makes us a citizen, and civil rights and ethics. It becomes about the human matter. And at the end of the day, I'm always reminded of my grandfather's words, who was a change agent. He who asks the questions leads the conversation. So we have to be profound and persistent with asking the questions of why. Why do I have and she or he or they do not? Why are we on this side of the street and I have 5 bars, and I go to this side of the street and there's 0 bars? Why is it when I'm driving down the road towards my daughter's school and we live in a nice area, I have to tell everyone, hold on 1 second, because I know I'm going to lose my signal. I know this. Like it's no. So it becomes a question of why, and then the who behind the why, and follow the money. So the ethics question is so pertinent. I had a live earlier today, and we say broadband, should it be a utility rather than a luxury? Why are we having this conversation? Access. Ethics is a conversation about access. And when we provide access, then we have information. So I think the question that really lies under the surface is, why do we want to withhold information from everyone? Because when you really enable and empower everyone to have information, then it's up to the person to take it and utilize it. So I think this becomes a question about access, affordability, and citizenship, right? We know the real makeup of a government of a country by how they treat the least. And this is where we are today, even with technology. So I think we have this juxtaposition of a home with 5 devices, but you have to stand in the corner to get good reception. Why don't we want access and technology and innovation to be really the actual basic, just like electricity and water and food, where the conversation is that it's not really a basic need that is met. It is a basic need, but it's not a basic need that's being met equally. And if we go beyond equity, then we have liberation. And Lubna, I'll say this. I don't think everyone wants to see true liberation, because then we don't need the fence anymore. We have this picture of the fence and everybody on their boxes looking over the fence. What would it look like if we didn't need the fence?
But do we need the fence? It seems to me, whether it's the fence or it's why are we holding information? It's that tells me, that just brings the word ignorance to mind, and what they don't know doesn't hurt them. And and when they don't know, there people are more controllable. So ignorance is a tool of domination or tyranny. I mean. But the other one, and it was discussed a bit earlier, is fear. People are living in fear. So they're in boxes. So why are we in fear? Edel, maybe I should hit you up with that one. But why do you think, and do you think I'm right, or do you think I'm imagining this, that we are have been moving in a state of fear of each other, fear of knowing, and
I think there's always a certain element of fear when it comes to technology and advancing in technology and spreading that technology. And is information too much information? And is it true information? That's another thing which comes with information. How true is it? And are we exposing people to information they should not see or they should see? And say that again, sorry?
Our decision to decide what they see and don't see.
No, I don't think so. But I think there are certain ways that we, can possibly, structure that information in a way that it doesn't necessarily land in front of your face without the choice of you seeing that information. So I think there is a certain, I wouldn't say control, because control is completely different, but putting a structure around that information and also spreading that information, as you said, like you want everyone to have that. It's not up to us whether they should or they shouldn't. They all should have it. Exactly what Shirelle said. It should be like something that, you get like food and water, you get access to it. You don't want to withhold it. And why would you withhold it? But then give them the choice to what they do and they don't want to see.
They can. And what they can and can't access, or what is relevant, it needs to come from us. It makes I was trying to look up something on earlier to see that someone mentioned to me that the FBI is investigating the church for possible terrorism. And I said the church, not the mosque. But then I wasn't sure. Is it real truth? What is the truth? I needed to verify, and what source? And it's amazing. We're talking about access, and sometimes we talk about access and who has access. Is it? I want to make sure that everybody in the world has access. The alternate is a vision of when we're all connected, but access to what? And is it truthful, or is it fake news, or is it even a video of me or someone, or is that a as was discussed earlier, a recreation of me? Major. How do you see it in India, as there's massive advances going on there?
Great task, Lubna. Thanks for asking. And in fact, this was the question which was asked by me in my first panel discussion as well in GatherVerse only. And I would very strongly say, since I advocate governance and ethics, since India advocate ethics and governance, so we have a very structured and a very governed way of progressing. The ethics part, in terms of not breaching the security, when it comes for advancing or implementing any kind of technological advancement is very much ensured, because people are very sentimental, people are very sensitive in disclosing about their identities. Then we are also bridging. India is a huge country with more than like 30 states, and at every 30 kilometers, it's a different culture. It's a different even language which is spoken. So that kind of gap when is bridged, covering all the kind of levels of people, all the kind of segments of people, a lot of issues come up, and that's where the technology, when is getting implemented, we are very much well versed about the inclusive part of it, ethics part of it, and we always have a a long term sustainable mindset, so that any investment when goes into in implementing any kind of technological change should not get wasted. So the funds which are being used in implementing any kind of maybe VR or AR, it should not get wasted. So we have implemented UPI. I mean, like even we go for any kind of small miscellaneous shopping as well. We have very much digitization being implemented at every level. So that is where the governance, the ethics, and the sustainability of any project, we do have that kind of consideration in mind.
So, and I think access should be to knowledge indeed should be ubiquitous, and indeed we have the technology to do it. And Edel, with the holograms, I can just imagine advancing our abilities to get past the is it fake or is it real, through connecting, somehow enabling the communities to connect with each other, to provide that level of connectivity, and then they can open the door or not. You sort of open the window or not. But do you see, Edel, and a future, or what can we do in the immediate term so that we can truly leverage such technologies? And you, with being from the position you come from, Cisco, you could maybe elaborate a bit more on how
Yeah,
technically viable, and then what we need to do from a business point of view.
sure. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, with the technology that we're working on today, we actually, the approach we took to this was to strip away the technology and to look at the person and the human, and about representing the person. So we didn't start, even though we're like a very technical company, we didn't start with the technology problem that we were solving, but actually with how we ensure that we keep the person present and how we ensure that the person is represented. So with a lot of these technologies that are coming today, and they're, as you mentioned, Lubna, like about deep fakes, and is that the real person? And is the video I'm looking at the real person? And what they're saying, the real thing? And what we wanted to do is put the person at the center of the problem that we were trying to solve. And our approach was trying to solve, allowing the person to be present even when thousands of miles apart, or not, in that major city with the role that they were in, and having them present in the room of the meeting that they're in, and getting the same attention as somebody who was present in the room that we were in. And with our solution, that can be possible. So what we have is we bring the person into the room as a in photorealistic holographic form, like not a blue blur, like actually like as they are in person. And then the audience consume that person. They see them using an augmented reality headset, and they do genuinely feel the presence of them in the room. And we can't even do videos of this when we're showing it to people, because there is an emotional feeling of presence. There is way more engagement. The person gets way more presence. And for us, and for what I'm passionate about, is if you are remote, that you do still get to be present in those meetings, and you do still get the attention that you deserve. Like what we're seeing now with the pandemic, post-pandemic, like hybrid is here to stay. Like we've leapfrogged into this hybrid world. And I think it's like 55% of people now have the opportunity to work remote, which is fantastic. But out of that, about 30% of people want a blend of the kind of partially in the office, partially from home, and then some people want to be fully remote. And going back to what you said at the start of the conversation in relation to, we're all women here on this panel, and I'm sure there's a mix attending remotely, but there's always been a bit of a glass ceiling for women anyway in the corporate world. And as a result of this hybrid work model, what we're seeing is women are actually leaning in to working remotely. And so they should, and that suits their work-life balance more so. But what we don't want to do is bring in an additional problem for them to not feel that they are present in the meetings, to not be represented, to suddenly get less of a chance to being promoted because they are suddenly
a chance. Yeah,
exactly. So what we feel about bringing the person in, giving them that presence is really important for them to represent.
A lot of amazing applications. Just bringing emotional connection, being close to someone that you wanted to be near, and you have no physical way of being next to them. I can, if it was pervasive during the lockdowns that created so much emotional distress for people, it might have been a bit more. But Emily, Cristina, and Alison, what do you think about this? Clearly, we have such extreme of access to technology. I mean, again, there's no shortage of amazing technology. Where is the shortage? And with that, how do we uncover the opportunity? Because I think we have an amazing opportunity right now. It's a short window to reset, while we're in the process of a reset, the trajectory. So whoever wants to go first, unmute. And please, thank you, Cristina.
Well, so for our work in Edify, for example, where we started in the Philippines, and there is access. However, it's not all equal access, of course, and a lot of that is exacerbated by being in a developing nation. So a lot of the work that we have is creating those on-ramps to kind of give that gentle nudge to people and say, hey, look at what's available. Look at this. It will give you a lot more access, right? The idea of decentralization, for example, that's a large idea for someone who has been in a society where everyone is given sort of all of these rules. So you kind of have to give gentle nudges and say, hey, why not explore this, and give them that confidence to go through it, and it will be safe. I think, as Edel was saying, it's very important to create a safe environment where people aren't getting into situations where they find themselves in even bigger trouble because they entered into something that, oops, that link was awful. So it's that for us, that's really where we're coming at it from, giving opportunities even where, hey, let's use this cool technology. For us, it's VR combined with Web3 technologies that allow you to get certifications, for example. And so getting you sort of accustomed to that idea, and you now owning those certifications and having control of who sees them and what you do with it. That sort of idea, I think.
Yeah, we definitely can have a whole session on identity and certifying truths. And oh my God, I'd love to have that deep session. But Emily, Alison? Yes, please.
Yeah, great conversations. And I think for me, I wanted to maybe take it from the way to bring equity is to really lay some of that responsibility on the state as citizens. And I love that concept of like constantly thinking about citizens and then all citizens is we need to be making those demands of the states in every country. And as we said, you can only access everything that we're talking about, even being here, being present, if you have the means to do that. Yeah. So we need to be absolutely on behalf of those people who don't have the access that we're sitting here with, calling for action from governments, and then from regions as they come together, and then, for instance, from the EU, from the UN, everyone, to say, how do you do exactly what was said? Broadband should be a utility. There should not be something that keeps people in that position that they are excluded. So I think for me, there's two big calls of actions I would ask for. Is one, that we are absolutely calling on states to take their responsibility. We are citizens who vote, and somehow we've got to get everyone out there voting. And perhaps if we use the blockchain for identity and voting, we might actually get a different balance of people in power, because we'd have more people voting. But anyway, put that to the side. The second big thing that to me is really important is education, because we've all talked about information. How do we decipher information, get through it? There is so much out there. When it's always going to, and it's going to keep growing and growing. The more we help children and young people, the education we provide them is on the tools of the future. We need to help them understand the tools of the future and how to develop skills that match the future, even though actually we don't know 85% of the jobs that are going to exist in the future. But we need to help them understand, how do they decipher information? How do they do those checks and balances? How are they inquisitive, rather than just take something presented to them? So my big cause in all that we talk about, because I generally feel tech can be the most exclusive thing possible, because it's always a cost to it and it's never there for everyone. But it's, how do we help people be educated, and how do we call on states to actually take the responsibility to take care, which was also another great word, to take care of all their citizens, to put us all in that position. So there would be my calls for action.
Wouldn't it be amazing to move us from an extractive economy or a commercially focused only economy to a care-based economy? Emily?
Yeah, no, I love how this conversation has gone so far. This has been great. I think I agree with pretty much everybody here. In terms of what I can think of now, I think that, you know, we do need to maintain a little bit of perspective with our technology. Like, the fact that we are here having this conversation shows that we have a certain level of privilege because we have access to this technology. And I did a panel at the SHE Summit, and I had someone reach out to me afterwards, and they kind of made an excellent point, which is, you know, we're talking about accessibility, but the people that we're trying to get access to don't have access to tell us how we can help them get access, you know? And I think that, you know, we see the benefits of our technology, and it has allowed us to connect across the world. And this conversation is evidence of that. But we also need to make sure we don't forget everyone else, you know, like we can talk about trying to get headsets to people, trying to get phones to people, but there are so many people out there who are just concerned about water, you know, and we do need to maintain that perspective. Because obviously digital elitism is something that we do need to seriously consider moving forwards. And we also need to make sure that we don't isolate ourselves by committing to technology. And at the same time, we do obviously recognize that technology has been massively beneficial and that it can help so many people in so many ways. And I very much believe that information should be a basic right. And as extension, the internet should be a basic right. Because, hi, Astro. Thanks. This is really bad timing. I'm kind of in the middle of something. Dude, can you just like...
This would be normally myself.
This is Astro. He doesn't like it when the attention isn't on him, so he's just sitting here now. But yeah, no, that's basically, I think everyone has made some excellent points there, and I agree with it.
And it's all goes to show that we genuinely, it's not a shortage of innovation or technology, and it's important, I think, to note that we are gathered here under the banner of GatherVerse, and we think a lot about the metaverse, But the metaverse in many ways is another iteration at us projecting what is in our with Second Life, some in the 90s. If any of you remember that. But it's stitching of our realities and realities we would want to have, and it ultimately can be a tunnel or a bridge that would enable us to have this hybrid existence. And it isn't a thing we have to go to, it's a tool, yet another tool that enables us to advance across all the other sciences and all of our systems that we live by and that govern us. And so the issue isn't really about the technology. It's actually keeping up with the pace and where we direct our efforts, where we place emphasis. So all of that is grand, but our economic models still are not necessarily, and the systems that we are governing ourselves by, the framing that we live by, where we think what we can and can't do, is the limiting factor. In fact, we can wake up tomorrow and all decide, every one of us, like we said, we the people, that we have a voice, that we step up, and all of us especially to have access. And those of us who have access have more of a reason to step up, because we have the bigger problem. We are the creators of the problem, in fact, and we have different problems. We have problems of access. You know, the fake news, the extortion of your IP rights, etc., etc. So the fact is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and just rapid fire, do we need to change our economic systems, and do we need to address this? I think your point, Alison, that we need to step up to the plate, each and every one of us, and start electing to stand up for the causes and the things we believe in, rather than electing someone else to speak on our behalf. And then, well, we know the rest of that story. Please.
Well, it's both, isn't it? Isn't it? It's us stepping up and also electing the people who are going to speak on our behalf, who represent us. We have for so long been represented by, in the UK, I can talk about specifically that those who elect the people who represent us are generally in the top age brackets of society. And so they are absolutely, the older age brackets are therefore electing the people who are going to represent us, and they're representing people who generally look like them, because we like to do that. And there's people who are there that look like them, so they're the ones that get elected. I mean, and actually, they will also advocate for their roles. I used to be the CEO of a council in the UK, which is run by elected members. And actually, those who were elected were there because the older age range had elected them. So when it came to prioritising budgets and how they should spend it, they will want to ensure that those who elected them are seeing that they gain from being there. So therefore, is the money spent on parks, or is it spent on pavements or car parking for the older people? That's what starts to do it. And so you're right, we have to step up. We have to demand more from the state, because they have the power to secure that inclusivity that we are all seeking.
And I have to say, you saying inclusive, I'm really grateful to Chris and the GatherVerse for making this as accessible as possible. Because if I'm invited yet to another exclusive event to talk about inclusivity, I'm going to shoot myself. But please,
exactly.
What else? Any of you, please just take off the mic, unmute your mics. Let's have a conversation about this. We have a short amount of time, and there's enough of us that I would love for it to be more of just talk to me.
I want to go back to the comment about disparity. And so I recall, I believe it was about a year ago the report came out. My mind's going back. So access, right? I think Emily, you mentioned about the technological elitism, right? During the pandemic, this was ironic how in 2018, there was a note that Black women in particular were almost 40% of the workforce in U.S. public government positions. This is amazing to me. Post-pandemic, they had lost over 60% of their employment. Now, I want this to be glaring in our conversation because technology, innovation, accessibility, and this inclusion, I think sometimes we use the word just a little too freely. Returning to work has its complexities now because now we're returning to what I would call a supersized expectation of technological aptitude with AI, engineering, cloud computing, right? All of these roles, which we all know here gathered, we can do, right? And so I had an engagement, we spoke, and I put up all of these job roles of the top grade 6 cloud computing roles, the high demand roles, highest paying. I removed the titles of each role and just put the average requirement or skill set. And the room was filled with women of color, different backgrounds, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I can do it. I can do it." Then when I put the title above, there was like these pauses. I'm like, "No, you were the same person who said I can do it before you saw the title. Don't let the title intimidate you." And I say that because access, technological innovation, it begins to close the wealth gap. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations. And so to like Emily's point, we're here gathered and we're talking, but more than likely, we may not be impacted as severely as those who we know we're trying to reach. So how do we actually bridge that gap? And that's why these conversations are important. Yes. I'm a part of the Fellowship for Black Churches in Digital Equity. And I want to be really clear when I say this. We are nonpartisan. We came out of the work with broadband research, NTIA, Department of Commerce, calling on the states, local government, doing the groundwork. We've been doing the work and making our civil workers, leaders, representation, and government come together and be accountable. And I think like these are the ways and these are the conversations that we have to constantly perpetuate. And our job is to look at the FCC maps, make sure infrastructure dollars are going where they're supposed to go, and building programs to help the beneficiaries of the underserved. And I think that's how we have to push the envelope. And it's hard work, but it's worthy work. But correlate wealth, opportunities, being able to purchase homes, have employment, innovation, and education. I think those are the conversations we have to push.
It sounded to me from the beginning of what you said, self-esteem and stepping out of the bounds of where you, especially for women or disabled, which I think we need to provide more access to and have more at the forefront of our thinking.
Yeah,
we need to step out of our way so we can and step up to the plate so that we can actually achieve the potential that we have. Except that example you gave with removing the titles.
Removing the title.
Really
because Lubna, the challenge is that I think the challenge is that
that's the mental barrier that they had. It wasn't a real barrier.
Right.
Major Namrat,
Namrata.
Yeah, I don't want to miss, but you know you have military experience.
Yes.
How do you see how do you see, and maybe this is a very bad question, but
Go ahead.
It hurts me that we still fund things to do with war, or that we are in the same breath like thinking about defense in the form of missiles and applying any technology, because that's also technology. That there's also technology that is saving a human life, like that. That is saving any life, that is saving the planet. And yet can government be reformed such that we redirect to the advances of humanity rather than this rapid self-destruction?
That's a wonderful and a very profound question, Lubna. And and the kind of situation we are in right now. I mean, the globally, when we see the Ukraine-Russia thing going on, China kind of, China Taiwan, we are expecting. I don't want to dwell more into it in this forum, but definitely, see, wars take place at a very, very different way altogether. They have very different, agendas, and they have very different mindsets altogether when war breaks out. Because in every country, be it any country in the world, small little operations keeps happening in borders. Yet, when a war breaks out, there's a massive amount of economic resources, human resources, missiles, ammunition, all these things comes into play. So war of formalized, formal, official war breaks out only and only when things goes to an extreme level. And we can see that how Ukraine and Russia are kind of progressing, and there are talks on even missiles. Nuclear power as well, use of this thing.
It's not
Uh,
in a vacuum,
shift,
right? It's not
yeah,
happening in a vacuum. Countries are support. It's like we're having
yeah,
this.
countries are definitely supporting. Yeah, so we extended our hand when refugees were. There's a very big NGO, Akshay Patra, which has extended its outlets almost across the world. And their kitchen in London extended their supply chains to Poland, and all the kinds of foods were given to refugees in Poland. So yes, definitely, we are definitely the neighboring countries, all the countries, the entire world, comes ahead when such kind of situations come, and or rather, I should say, emerge. And in fact, India has a policy of Vasudhaiva Kutum, so that the world is one, and that's how we are
Yes,
leading our G20, presidency as well. Having said that, done that, I'm just reminding one of a very famous quote of Steve Jobs, where he says, "Technology by itself does not make leaders. Technology only amplifies true leadership." So, of all the time, sorry.
yes, I'm agreeing that it amplifies what is within.
Yes, so we are talking about marginalized community. We're talking about inclusivity. We're talking about racism. We're talking about women. All these things, and we're talking about hybrid work culture and all these kind of things. So technology will emerge. And when we are given that kind of work from home or remote work, and today also we all are working from home, and but still we are connected. So the leadership is emerging. The technology cannot be set aside. It is, if technology is emerging, then at least then that is a time where we are actually realizing what true leadership is, and how true leadership is kind of emerged. So that's what I would like to say. And there was one very great app which was developed by PwC. They
Mhm.
launched a digital fitness app available for free download. And this app enabled people to round out their knowledge and understanding of technologies shaping their world. So, this kind of initiative to digitally upskill the world is an example of how technology can really give back to the community. And
Yes.
then you spoke about this model. I'll just pitch in a bit. From the model developed by Jackson et al. In 1989, we have already concluded that steps that may be taken empowering the marginalized through community work are developed, our developmental casework, then our by mutual support, issue identification, campaigning, community participation, and social movements. So this is the kind of model, proven model, rather I should say, which has already been developed, years before in 1989 when things were started in this kind of era. So I think all these models, I mean, even I do research, and I do, mentor startups and entrepreneurs. These kind of models, which are already proven in the world, always should be taken into consideration to again make a sustainable, economical kind of framework, because this makes an improved efficiency, and since they're proven, so we can expect them to be more sustainable.
Thank you for that. And that still, Christina, do you, if I and then Emily, please, on this, because at the end of the day, I still think we need to activate the people who have access, and we need to be able to better listen to who doesn't have access, and in what way they need the access. And there is a shared learning, because it's both sides. I mean, we want to extend access. We think we want to extend access because we do the right thing for those who don't have digital access. But before that, and I would love to do that, not just because I'm a technologist, but also because that means they have energy and communications, because you cannot have access without having power, and telecommunications infrastructure, which means would then further enable access to the rest of the technologies, not just to sit in the metaverse or anything, but then what else is needed to create sustainability, to establish permaculture, to create any of the things that we need to create to help a community restore its dignity, its self-sustaining capacity that it had. But how do we go about activating the youth and the elders alike in the world that has the access, and the world that has sufficient reach? Because a lot of these underserved communities, they're not lacking the knowledge, they're lacking the link. How do you think, create that bridge that would allow us to actually learn what we need to learn, so that we can affect the change that we need to affect within our own structures in society?
Well, I think for sure, constant listening, right? And not jumping in just because, like you said, I definitely want to share what I have with everyone, but listening to what the steps are actually that are needed to get there, because perhaps we don't see a lot of the steps that some people need, especially in areas that are underserved, right? And you miss complete links, and so then the stickiness of what we're trying to do, it just falls apart. So this well-meaning of, yes, I want to get this done, perhaps it's a much slower process than we would like it to be, but that process of going through that slowly will ensure its stickiness. And remembering too that what works in one space may not in another community, right? This transference, some of course is transferable, but a lot of it is not, because things are just different in different areas. And so being able to be sensitive to a lot of that, I think, is the key. And it's just that listening piece for sure.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that learning to listen is kind of a key part of this. You know, in school, we all learn how to talk, but we don't necessarily learn the listening skills that come with a conversation. And you see this all the time, the way people just cut in and interrupt with some emotional outburst. And if you are talking to someone, well, not me, but, you know, sometimes when you're talking to someone, you know, if you don't like what you're hearing, you can just block that out and you stop listening to what they're saying. And you instead just interpret what you expect to hear that then fuels that emotional outburst. Like I'm Generation Z, so I feel like I'm the youngest person here. And I do think that we as a generation need to be more involved in these kinds of conversations. Like, we think differently, we see the world differently, and this creates a lot of challenges when we are in an education system that is not designed by or for us. It's designed by the older generations who don't think differently and see the world differently, and they've already come to certain conclusions about the world and conclusions about humanity and our role in this world, and then they are teaching their conclusions to us. You know, our education systems are very copy-paste based on memorization rather than self-exploration and creativity. And there's this kind of, I almost want to say backlash, but I don't think that's the right word, in the education systems, because for our generation, we've been totally immersed in this technology our whole lives. And like, I at least I'm grateful that I remember the time of slide phones and like brick phones. So I'm like part of the older section of Gen Z that I remember that. But you know, like for us, this has always been there. So then when we go into an education system based on memorization, where we have to memorize dates and we have to memorize things that other people have done, it's kind of insulting to our intelligence, because we have the internet. Like, we can just ask our phones and we'll get the answer. So for us, it's not necessarily cultivating us to be the best people that we can be, if that makes sense. And then, you know, it's kind of funny when we talk about like voting and stuff like that. And like, I do believe that, you know, free access to information is crucial for us to move forwards and to come to our own conclusions. But we need to have the education in how to process that information, how to approach information, and how to identify bias, and then how to deal with that bias once you're faced with it. So the problems arise in like our voting system, where the older generations take up a lot of the votes, just because they are more involved in that. But they are from a different generation pre-internet. So when they're doing their own research on the internet, they're going to be more susceptible to misinformation, because they didn't learn about how to identify that in school. So it's kind of this funny little balance there. Like for me, I want more people of the younger generation to get involved. And it's great to see that, you know, the Fridays for Future movement has really picked up a lot of attention a few years ago. But, you know, there's still so many people that don't vote just because they feel like they have no power. And especially in the younger generation, like, it's like depression is just so prevalent in our generation, because not only do we have like a greater awareness, like the technology brings us so many stories of all the awful things that are happening. And for us, you know, this is what we're inheriting. Like, this is the legacy that we're inheriting. And then, you know, it's really difficult. Like, it's really difficult for so many people when like you reach an age where you realize that like the world has been crippled and you are expected to do something about it, but you're too young to have a vote, you know? And so that triggers a lot of depression in that sense, and a lot of anxiety, which is also fueled by the media, social media as well, in terms of how trends work that way. So that's important, again, to have awareness into how algorithms send us information on social media, which can then lead to like concentrated views, as I call it, or like extremist views. And it can put you into like a very negative mindset or one-sided mindset, just looking at how social media trends work based on your history, which is all very interesting, but obviously it can have some severe ramifications, as we've seen in our election processes over the last few years. But if we can bring awareness to that and education to that, then I do see it as something we're able to work past with a little bit more self-awareness. Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for this wonderful close. You know, I've always, when you said about voting for children, I always, since my daughters were young, they wanted to influence my vote, so I split my vote. They had to vote for me, and I voted on the behalf of the collective. But yes, I totally agree with you. The youth need to have a voice. Every individual that's affected, but we can all have. That's what excites me about this technology, is that it can give us all, if we implement it, if you put the right governance and the right frameworks, every single individual can have a voice, even if that voice is to use as an extension, you know, like when you stack on each other. But rather than stacking up, that we stack out and we assist each other, that what is good for us is what is good for the collective. And the community. I mean, Earth is like a beach ball. You put a hole in it in one place. It's not like the rest is going to sit pretty. It just demonstrates immense ignorance on our leadership. So I really apologize, Emily, to you and all of the young people for how we've behaved, and also for the elders that we have disrespected in the way we've handled ourselves in the name of profitability. So if we just shift how we measure success and profitability by the well-being of human dignity, by fun, by the joy of life and gratitude, I think everything would be changed. And I agree with you. Old thinking is not going to solve the old problems that it's created. We need new thinking, and we need to shed these beliefs of what we can and can do, or that we have to fight each other or solve the problems of past. We have what we have. Let's deal with it. I would like to ask each of you, we're out of time, and Chris will shoot me, but we did start a little late. So if any of you has something that you want to say before we close this panel, please unmute your mic and say something, but note that we are over time and it's to my head. Sorry.
I would just say a call to action, that this is about we change the world and create the world we want by every human being taking a role in that. This is not a group of women's responsibility. This is everyone's responsibility to do that. And so that's it. Call to action. Look around you, notice what's happening, and if everything is the same, then you need to do something different.
I just want to add to that as well. I think representation is key. If the leaders that are making the decisions, who have the funds, who have the access to technology, really get the voice of the people who have the problem, and they're represented as part of those decisions and not making decisions on their behalf, that is so important. There's no point in them assuming what's right for them, but actually, being represented. Exactly what Emily said. There's no point in somebody making a decision for you who does not live in your situation. And I think Cristina touched on that too. Everything is different for everybody. But those voices need to be heard, and they need to be represented in those decisions.
Anyone else?
I would just say to remember that we are a collective community that are responsible for each and every human to have the best life.
Well, thank you. I'll close that clearly, and especially from what Emily highlighted, the issues of access, the issues of inclusivity, all of them are not just affecting the developed or developing, they are affecting us as humanity. And it's up to all of us to do something. And I know we can. Even those who are not connected, they are probably having a lot more blissful time in many ways than we are, but there is a lot to learn from them and from their culture and from what them being any other culture outside of what you define yourself to fit in within. And I pray and look for the day where we all just see ourselves as kind human, enjoying this form of being. I thank you all for your attention and time. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. I will try and look at it now with more responsiveness. Thank you so much, and see you next time. May our rest of our gather be as well as what's past and beyond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.